So right now the Texans have a very disgruntled Deshaun Watson, and he's disgruntled to the point where apparently very soon he might be asking the organization for a trade. So the Texans currently have an extremely disgruntled Deshaun Watson, and rightfully so. I mean, the Texans organization has not handled a lot of just the roster management very well. Obviously, they had Bill O'Brien in there, and Bill O'Brien was really trading away draft capital like he was almost about to lose his job, which he essentially did in 2020. After a few games into the season, he actually lost his job. And, he was a guy that traded away 2 first-round picks for Laramie Tunsil. He traded away a second-round pick for each Kenny Stills and Brandon Cooks. And then you look at the Texans right now, and especially after the trade of DeAndre Hopkins over to the Cardinals, they got very minimal return for him. Everyone would think that DeAndre Hopkins would demand a first-round pick at the very least, maybe even more than that. All they got was an old David Johnson and a second-round pick. So you look at the situation right now, and the Texans right now going into this season, they don't have any picks in the top 2 rounds, and they just have a very, very old roster. And apparently, the Houston Texans told Deshaun Watson that he was going to be very involved with the GM and head coaching search. And then after they announced that they basically hired a new GM, Deshaun Watson was pretty mad because he was not, I guess, in the loop for the whole thing. And then now there's reports that he's about to prepare for asking basically for a trade from the organization. And really at this point, you wonder, okay, if he actually puts the word out there that he wants to be traded, what would he demand in a trade market? And honestly, he would demand a whole lot. When you look at the last couple of years, when you look at kind of the blockbuster trades, you look at the Jaguars as a couple of years ago with Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey demanded 2 first-round picks as well as a 4th-round pick. And in 2020, Jamal Adams essentially demanded 2 first-round picks, a 3rd-round pick, and they traded Bradley McDougald, a starting caliber safety, over to them to replace them. And then you would think that Deshaun Watson, at the very least, if that's what defensive backs in the NFL would demand, you would think that he would demand at least 4 first-round picks. This isn't trading the defensive back. This is trading a quarterback that could very well be a top 5 NFL quarterback if they build the right system around him. He's very, very good. So at this point, you can eliminate a lot of teams from this whole discussion. You can eliminate teams because really, in order to get Deshaun Watson, I think that you need to, if you're drafting anywhere outside the top 3, because we don't know what the Texans GM right now thinks. Maybe he thinks that Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Zach Wilson are all going to be franchise quarterbacks. Maybe they have very high marks on him. So essentially, that allows trades to almost be open with the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Dolphins, who, ironically enough, literally have the Texans pick. So maybe those spots are open. But also maybe if you're drafting anywhere outside the top 3, I would think that you would need to basically give away your current franchise quarterback. Maybe it's open to the Lions. Maybe the Lions want to trade away like 3 first-round picks and give them Matt Stafford. Maybe the Falcons right now want to give up their number 4 overall pick with Matt Stafford. Maybe they could try to trade away kind of an aging veteran who maybe has like 5 years or so left in their career. Maybe something like that. And obviously Deshaun Watson, he's a very good quarterback. I mean, he is definitely a proven quarterback, but the situation begs, like, is there a possibility that he can get traded? So obviously it brings up the Jaguar situation. The Jaguars hold the number 1 overall pick, and people are pretty much sharping in the fact that the Jaguars are going to get Trevor Lawrence. There's some people out there that are kind of the Justin Fields mentions, but at the end of the day, I think even the Justin Fields optimists pretty much know that the Jaguars will be going with Trevor Lawrence, despite all the Urban Meyer is going to take Justin Fields. He's not going to, but that's for another video. Now is the whole thing about the whether the Jaguars should trade the number 1 overall pick, to the Texans. I mean, at the moment right now, like, if we're taking out my perspective, because I obviously think Trevor Lawrence is, a great quarterback, but let's go ahead and take the national narrative around Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is being pretty much heralded as like the best quarterback prospect to ever come out. And it's not really saying that, oh, he's going to be better than Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be better than all these great, Josh Allen, all these great quarterbacks. It just means that coming out of college, going to the NFL, he has the least amount of question marks regarding his game. And like the Jaguars right now are in a position where they would probably have to give up the least draft capital. I mean, it could be as simple as trading a number 1 pick to the Texans to get Deshaun Watson. Now, me personally, would I do it? I wouldn't. I can understand people that would say, oh, we should definitely go do it. But I'm in a situation right now where, if Deshaun Watson right now, like one real advantage about having a rookie quarterback is that you get their rookie contract with them. You don't have a lot of like, you don't have to pay them a lot of money, and that's a real advantage to having a young quarterback. I mean, you've seen teams with Super Bowl windows really create that. Back when the Eagles had Carson Wentz on his rookie contract, they were able to go to the Super Bowl. The Rams, when Jared Goff was on a rookie contract, Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl under his rookie contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it just allows you to really build a great roster around them before you have to worry about really the heavy cap hit that having a franchise quarterback is going to take. So there's that, and obviously Deshaun Watson has been in the NFL since 2017, so naturally Trevor Lawrence is younger, so Trevor Lawrence is going to have, more years to really play in the NFL. But then you also bring into question, like, the fact that, look, is Trevor Lawrence better than Deshaun Watson? And that's a relative unknown, because right now Deshaun Watson, the great thing about him is that we know what he is. He's a great quarterback. You know what I mean? It's very, very hard to really sit here and say Trevor Lawrence is going to be a better NFL quarterback than Deshaun Watson. But at this point, it's really hard to bet against that, obviously. And that's why this whole thing is so intriguing, because, you're going to get a guy in here that is a franchise quarterback. But I don't see it happening, mainly for the fact that you're not going to trade to have a blockbuster trade within a division. I mean, it doesn't seem like that much of a blockbuster trade if, say, the news comes out, the Jaguars trade the number 1 overall pick to Deshaun Watson, because it's not like there's a lot of moving parts. It's not like the Jalen Ramsey, Jamal Adams trade where you got 2 first-round picks being moved, you got additional late picks being moved, and maybe even a player getting moved. I mean, it's obviously like a 1-for-1, but that is a huge trade to make within a division. You're essentially trading franchise quarterback for franchise quarterback. And I don't see it happening. I mean, like I said, it'd be so painful to sit here in a division and then all of a sudden you're looking at your rival and you're playing against them twice a year and thinking, okay, what could we have had? I don't see the situation happening. And me personally, I wouldn't do it. And like I said many times, I'm not an expert, I'm a fan. And the fan in me wants to see Trevor Lawrence in a Jaguars uniform his whole career. I don't want to get a quarterback from another team and watch the second part of their career start. I want Trevor Lawrence to be pure. I want him to have a Jaguars uniform his whole entire career. And I just look at the situation, and I don't think that Deshaun Watson winds up getting traded. It's just too hard. Deshaun Watson is literally the only thing that the Texans have right now in their organization. And, obviously with all their draft capital gone, they don't have a lot of cap room to play with. And obviously they have kind of an aging roster. So like Deshaun Watson is like pretty much all they have. So they're going to do everything to make sure that he stays with that organization. And it's a really tough position right now for the Texans because they're in the middle of trying to hire a head coach. And the head coach, they've had multiple candidates decline interviews. The Colts offensive coordinator, Pat Eberflus, for example, he declined an interview with them. And they're in a tough situation right now because their whole selling point has to be Deshaun Watson. And right now, these guys are so invested in their own teams right now where they probably don't have time to do the research to figure out what the heck is going on with Deshaun Watson. So it's a horrible situation right now, obviously, for the Texans. But at the end of the day, I can understand people that want to trade for Deshaun Watson. I would favor that more than all the Justin Fields at number 1 nonsense talk that people were throwing out there. But it's definitely a good discussion point. The Jaguars are one of the very, very few teams that really have what it takes to actually go get him because, you look at the Bears. The Bears don't have anything to offer right now. You look at like the Colts. The Colts don't have anything to offer. The Jaguars had the number 1 overall pick. They can pretty much offer Trevor Lawrence for him or any other team, like I said, that maybe if if Deshaun Watson absolutely 100% will not play with the Jaguars, then, you look at teams with, like I said earlier, like Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, teams with aging veterans that might have a few years to pull out. But I mean, it would be a whole dysfunctional thing if the worst thing that ever happened to the Texans franchise if somehow they were to lose Deshaun Watson, a quarterback that the Jaguars are currently 0-6 against. So let me know your thoughts. Are you guys in line with me, or are you more of the opinion that the Jaguars should really do everything they can to get Deshaun Watson on the roster? Let me know what you guys think. And as always, go Jags.